Welcome to Hatching Creativity. This isn't just another behavioral health podcast. This is the place where thought leaders converge to talk about real-life challenges, breakthroughs, and pivotal aha moments. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Hatching Creativity. In today's interview, I speak with Maeve O'Neill from Circa Behavioral Health. Maeve is a behavioral healthcare industry expert and one of the most passionate advocates for ethics and compliance. We speak about outcomes, compliance, data standardization, and what you could be looking at to best serve your business. And don't forget, if you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and tell all your friends about Hatching Creativity.
I'm here with Maeve today. Maeve, would you like to do an introduction of yourself?
So I worked in behavioral health my whole life, 35 years, about 10 as a clinician, 10 managing programs, and then 10 in leadership positions. And then luckily the last 7 or 8 of that has been in compliance, where I found my love of helping other organizations become more compliant with regulatory stuff or in line with what the standards are across the industry, and then helping to make sure our staff are ready for that. I think it's a matter of making sure that individuals, teams, and organizations all have the same information and are walking toward the same goals.
It's funny. I talked about standardization the time, and there's such a lack of standardization in this area, right? Everybody does things their own way and feels that it's better, but without standardization, there's no way to compare outcomes or results or what is good, right? We don't even know that because I think it's so many things.
Yeah.
So I think that's really valid.
I was telling someone earlier, I think that in my career, I went through sort of the evidence-based practice movement. Do we have the right research bases and the right clinical practices? Then we had the managed care kind of movement, and then one aligned with what payers want. And I think the next movement's going to be compliance. Do we have all the standards? Do they kind of make sense? Are they different in every state, or maybe there's some more alignment? And how can we help organizations implement them on a daily basis without a lot of headaches, without a lot of problems, and just integrate it into their daily work and make it so much easier?
Well, it's also interesting because the way people manage compliance makes it really hard. People feel like because they are able to keep their license or their accreditation, that means that they're doing enough on compliance. And what they're really missing is that compliance should be used as a tool to protect your organization and to protect your revenue, or potentially to generate revenue if you're using the right tools and looking at the right data.
Oh yeah, sure. I think compliance and behavioral health, we're very kind of like a baby program, right? We're just maturing to the point of what is compliance? Do we have all the elements? Do we have all the pieces? Do we have a framework, an approach to it that makes sense? Or is everyone kind of just doing the best they can with what they have? Is it a person? Is it a good policy set? Is it someone that's helping them to do it because they've done it for so many years? But I think we're going to see a lot more infusion into the field of requirements from accreditation bodies, licensing bodies. You have to have a compliance plan and a program and a staff and certifications like we do in medical and clinical services. So it's coming. It's going to be here soon, I think.
What's interesting, though, is that I think there's tons of evolution needed. But the other thing is the way people manage their documentation, right? They're planning on the Joint Commission or their state not coming out for 2.5, 3 years, right? So what ends up happening is if they're not coming out for another 2, 3, whatever, people just do their own thing. And then as it gets closer, they're making up information. We all see it, right? And what ends up happening is the data is useless. I use, examples all the time of whether it's client rounds. People skip on client rounds all the time. Oh, this is how you make sure your clients don't die, or nobody's in a position where they need a clinical help and they can't get it. All these standards are here to help people, to help the clients, but down the organizations. And you have to look in your data and actually do something great with it.
Yeah, a real good compliance plan and program that looks at all those risk areas and the data behind it on a regular basis to hopefully have a robust response in place, right? So you don't wait for a commission to come and say, oops, you missed this. You're managing it. You're managing it. And then I think you're learning from it, and then you're developing a culture of learning. Like, you always want to get better. None of us has this perfect. None of us has this fine-tuned. It's an ongoing process. And then we can learn from each other, I think, as we learn those lessons.
You know, it's funny you talk about culture. So I had Jordan Young on recently, and Jordan is a recruiter in the space. And we were talking about hiring processes, right? And one of the topics that came up was, don't just hire somebody because they're a body and you need somebody in there. That you really need to make sure that you're hiring somebody who's a fit for your culture, because one, it's very easy to damage your reputation. Number two, it's very easy to poison the well with the rest of your staff when you hire somebody that's not a good cultural fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think an interview question is, how do you see compliance? What does the culture of safety look like? Here is our culture, and how do you see yourself fitting in? Those are great ways to interview.
Yeah.
And then if someone leaves your organization, maybe even ask, what didn't fit for you? What in the organization didn't see right? And are there compliance concerns as you leave? Those are great for touch points to integrate compliance into those activities so you learn from it.
I like that. You know, I think that one of the things, and I've seen you present a dozen times by now, and one of the things that always stands out for me about your presentations, as well as what you talk about, as well as practice, is staff, taking care of your people, understanding the burden and the workload on your team so that they're not dealing with them. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I think it was probably 7 years ago, I wrote an article for the Healthcare Compliance Association magazine, and the title was Compliance at the Heart of the Organization. And I really believe that compliance, when done right, shouldn't be a punitive, scary place. It really should be where people come to feel heard, to feel listened to feel safe in the organization. And when you do that, and then you have, I think, better outcomes for our clients, for our staff, revenue, like you mentioned earlier. My new mantra is happy and healthy staff are ethical and compliant to provide quality and safe care. We can't do one without the other, right? We've got to do all this. And the compliance team, person, whatever, should be part of that process. Whether you're using a platform like Hatch or an EMR process or whatever it is, team meetings, you weave it in and it just becomes part of our daily activity. That's the goal.
I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. If you could change something in the industry, what would that be?
Well, I guess I'd have to say about the staff, I think I would change the fact that, well, our challenge programs, it is their staff coming first. Because we all want compliance to come first, or revenue, or expenses. Yeah, right. But if it's really staff, you got to say, how do we demonstrate that? What does that look like on a daily basis? Is it just filling warm bodies? Is it taking care of our staff? Is it staff well-being activities? I was just presenting earlier about, do we have burnout initiatives in our programs? So what are we doing to prevent burnout in our staff? What are we doing to detect that turnover on May's team or Mike's team, or, and then what are you doing about to correct it? Because there's lots of things we can do, but if you don't know the data, if you don't have the information, you can't really address it.
It's true. It's true. I hear, because I talk to so many people about things like this, I always ask, what are you doing to ensure your staff is happy? So you talked a little bit about staff appreciation and the things that you do. And it's funny because so many organizations I talk to, you ask them, what are they doing for staff appreciation? And they really don't have anything. Or maybe you do a pizza party once a quarter or something. Yeah. I was in California not that long ago, and I was traveling around visiting some of the treatment centers that we work with. And I sat with Michael, the CEO of Alter Health Group in Dana Point, I believe. And he goes, hey, what are you doing tonight? I said, I didn't have any plans. What's going on? I'm taking the whole staff roller skating tonight. You want to come? And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, they do team roller skate. And So the thing is like with these cool team events, if you want to do something with the team, do it outside the work.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily, they're spending enough time there, all right?
Yeah.
Do it outside and do it in a way where people can really connect and become friends.
Yeah.
Find people look out for each other that way. And you're dealing with not only a vulnerable population, your clientele, but a vulnerable population as your.
Yeah. I love the creativity of it, right? Like whatever your staff, my staff, someone else's staff might be different. So ask your staff, what do they want? You might think they want a pizza party or maybe they want to do something else. You know what I mean? So when you know your staff, you know it's okay to ask, what right now do we need? Do we need a day off? Do we need a party? What do we need? Let's do it.
But the thing is communication has to be often and consistent. Because if all of a sudden you come out of the blue and you go, hey, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
They're going to be like a deer on the headlights and they're not going to, not going to trust it. Right? So it has a lot to do with that whole culture. Like you had mentioned, it's so important that your staff knows that they're appreciated and respected. And, and just sometimes they may mess up.
Yeah.
But you got to kind of look at that mess up and wonder, and ask yourself, is that a mess up because of carelessness? Is it a mess up because of like their personality? Or maybe they're going through some stuff and maybe they just need you to put your arm around them and say, hey, you're going to be all right. And you're not at risk here. Right. That goes all the way. Exactly. We got people like that, where they've been off. For a little while, and you don't know why you're off.
Yeah.
But if you have that communication with them along the way, you can go out and straight up ask them, I'm noticing you're off.
Right.
What's going on? Right. And they'll share that with you.
Help that connected trust. Yeah, totally.
So if you, is there anything that you would say, maybe for somebody who's looking to get started building a culture of compliance, what would you recommend? How somebody gets started? It seems like such a daunting task.
Well, I guess the first thing is to kind of recognize if you have data or information, what's our current culture? So what's our baseline now? Where do we want to get to? And then, folks like us at Circa, we can help you figure out what's the best culture of compliance. What's that going to look like? It's a risk assessment, right? Do you have a plan? Do you have a program? Are you reaching the 7 elements? Do you have a policy procedure manual? Do you have the training around that? All those pieces. And then you can't fix it all at once. What you can do is say, this year, let's do this. We'll tackle this problem and that problem. And then you kind of, I think, get the input of the staff, get the input of outside people. And the next thing you know, you're making progress and you realize the effort and the work is worth it and it will keep growing from there.
So are you saying that the best method is one foot in front of the other as opposed to just going wild or flipping the whole organization on its head?
I think so. I think it's a clarity. Where are we now? Where do you want to get to? And then taking steps toward that. And you're going to make mistakes along the way. That's okay too. But I think having an outside person like us come in and help assess that's really helpful too.
Yes.
We hear things that maybe
unbiased,
internal, that unbiased, objective opinion, external kind of evaluation is really helpful.
You mentioned something a minute ago about being clear. And I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, just like you. And she always says, clear as kind.
Yeah.
Unclear as unkind. And I interpret that as setting a clear expectation of what you expect from other people and what other people should expect from you. And if you are clear about that, if you hold them accountable for it, they know what they're being held accountable for. The worst is when it's amorphous and we're just guessing.
Yeah, we feel safer when we know what expectations are, right? What might happen? What's going to happen? And how am I going to feel when it happens?
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to Hatching Creativity. We appreciate your support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and tell all your friends about the show. And remember, it's never just about one thing.